Hey, everybody, welcome to What the Flick, True Detective Season 2. Shit's getting good. John Iadarola, Brett Erlich, Alonso Duralde. I think this is the episode that if you were kind of on the fence that maybe now you're in. Am I wrong?
I'm in now. John doesn't remember much.
I know. I was past the fence last episode. The previous two episodes I thought were quite good. This one had scenes that I found interesting, but I don't. The mystery, like to the extent that my interest in the show is driven by my interest in the mystery, is gone. I have no idea what's going on.
Well, see, I feel like I do now have at least more of an idea. I mean, you're right. Last week's episode, I think, is the kind of the setup that gets us to where we are now. Mm-hmm. But I sort of feel like now, I've used this expression in other times we've talked about shows, but I feel the pieces are all on the board.
Yes, they're all on the board. They haven't been connected exactly yet. I know that. So, correct me if I'm wrong. Tract of land is now under the possession of high-speed rail people. We're pretty sure that there has been an intentional poisoning of that land to bring down the property value.
Right.
Yes.
And involved is the guy who said, listen, Vince Vaughn, you need to find this hard drive, and then I'll cut you in.
Right.
And that guy shows up at the sex party.
Yes.
So he was at the sex party.
He was the guy.
I don't know how you recognize
He was the guy
that
doing
from
the
the 2-minute
deals.
scene.
Oh, I have when here's a tip for everyone. When you're watching True Detective, have your phone out, and while they're mentioning names, you have to type True Detective and then that name. And then do an image search, and then you're like, oh, that guy.
Okay, so
That's
he was
who
at the
we're
party.
talking about.
Good to know.
Okay, that's fine.
And also, so there's a lot that came
But so
through at the party.
are the sex the sex parties are just a coincidence that all these players go to?
No,
like, does it have anything fundamental to do?
Okay, look, when Colin Farrell was following the flunky of Vince Vaughn's, whom Vince Vaughn suspected of being up to no good.
Yeah.
Flunky and son of the mayor who lives in the crazy Bel Air mansion with the woman with the big vapor bag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They put together these sex parties that both help them close deals and blackmail the participants.
So I get the idea about the potential blackmail, but do we have evidence of particular people who have actually been blackmailed by that material?
probably Casper's
we know
hard drive.
that Casper was like super freaky sex dude, and we know that the mayor and the mayor's son are all involved in all the chicanery and shenanigans.
Also, the Asian dude from Dexter, who's now the gubernatorial candidate, clearly
the
is
DA, right?
the DA, Attorney General, some whatever.
Yeah,
he is embroiled in all of this too, because
I get that.
We're pretty sure we saw them at the party during the Molly binge.
Yes.
Pretty sure we saw him, but he seems to have emerged from this last round of terribleness as the person bankrolled by the evil rich people who are poisoning land and doing high-speed rail.
So she knows she's got to get into the party to see who's there.
Yes.
And so things are happening.
And I like. So let's break it down to what scenes happened.
Okay.
We need to start at the beginning. We've kind of laid down the confrontation that continues with
between Frank and Ray.
Ray Velcoro.
Yeah, Velcoro. About the identity of Velcoro's son's actual father, and did Velcoro kill the wrong rapist?
Yeah. Yes.
Which I have to say, for Frank to get out of it by saying, yeah, you were going to be an evil piece of shit anyway. You really can't pin that one on me. I didn't quite buy it as enough to keep him from getting shot in that moment. But then I think later the deal of, look, I was working off bad intel. I will give you up the guy who gave me the bad intel if you know.
I just don't think that Vince Vaughn ever cared enough to give him the real guy.
He's his last
friend.
friend.
I like the standoff situation.
Yeah, I like
where
that.
underneath
It
the
was very
table
Star
there
Wars.
are exactly. But they're both Han Solo.
Exactly.
Garrido knew.
Nobody fired first. So the thing that, I had been anticipating this meetup for 3 or 4 episodes, but I didn't consider the possibility that him saying you lied to me, you ruined my life. No, I didn't. I was lied to. The fact that could turn around the whole thing, I didn't consider.
See, I bought
he was
more
so
what
wrapped
you didn't
up in
like.
rage, I thought he'd kill him anyway. I guess he decided he's just going to channel that rage on the actual rapist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's a very Bush Cheney thing. What? We have bad intel? How did we know?
See, I more bought the fact that maybe I'm wrong about this, but I bought more the fact that Velcoro was affected by that speech that was just saying, listen, man, you were going to kill somebody. You needed to kill somebody. You needed to have some kind of justice, and you killed who was, this is a bad guy anyway.
Believe me, Frank's speech made sense. I just didn't know if it would be enough to talk himself out of being shot. I think what talks him out of being shot is the deal of, let's go find the guy who gave me the wrong information. And then you can go kill him.
I think that kind of vengeance is more in line with, I don't know. I just don't feel like it's time for Velcoro to end everything right there.
Yeah.
You know?
I did love...
too much hope, strangely, in that character.
To jump ahead later, though, I did love the whole notion of like, look, I will give up all claims of custody. You will never see me again. Promise me that you will never tell that kid that I'm not his father.
I don't trust her.
That's like, that is such a stab in the heart, but at the same time, it's like, it is such a noble, if somewhat meaningless gesture. I don't know. I just found that really moving in a fucked up kind of like, oh, I guess I know where you're going with this, and that's kind of terrible, but it's also kind of great, and it's not an easy emotional, button for that one.
I just want to say one thing about that last scene is, well, first of all, I have been a big defender of Vince Vaughn's acting, but I did find his acting in that scene to be particularly bad, I think. But more importantly, I wonder if they were setting up at the end that line of, if you're going to come at me with your gun, don't let me see it coming. I wonder if that's setting up a possible Ray killing him in the finale, possibly. But
and it's possible that Ray has decided, like, I'm going to do it, but later.
Like, I'm going to find out the guy, I'm going to kill the other guy, and then I'm going to come back and kill you after.
The other guy, who, by the way, is not a ginger, which I think is important information.
That's true. Given the genetic map here.
I thought that the initial question was going to be like, before you went gray, what color was your hair? Like, that's what I thought he was going to ask.
I don't know, the wife honestly looks like she could be a redhead who's been dyeing her hair.
Yeah.
That's possible, but... I like that the bender did not lead to him just redescending into his terrible state previously.
The wife is not remotely ginger. She
looks ginger.
I know. She's got too much. Irish. She's got too much melanin. Are we talking about Velcoro's wife?
Yeah, she looks pale to me.
No, she is.
She's been brunette since I met her. She's been brunette since I met her in Mad Men, and that's.
I didn't know that she was.
She's almost. I don't even know what the word I want here is, but she's not pale.
Okay. Yes, but so I like that when he did the bender, I thought it was the stereotypical he's going to go back to what he was, but he didn't. In fact, he instantly sobered up at the end of it, despite the drinking and the coke for the phone call. And so I think that was a surprise in a show that, to me, hasn't had a ton of surprises. I thought that was a nice surprise.
Other aspects of this episode, there is Frank trying to find the woman.
Yeah.
And have the face-to-face meeting, going and having an actual Mexican standoff with Mexicans.
Right.
That's an okay line.
Yeah, I was like, I thought that.
I like that line.
Yeah. And that's the kind of like stuff I need him to say more and embrace more and be more Vince Vaughn-y.
I'm okay with him playing it relatively straight, and I think he's doing a pretty good job with it.
I know.
Twice in this episode, by the way, he was the first person to put his gun down or take his hand off his gun.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe that's supposed to say something about his character.
It is. That's exactly what he's trying to do in life right now.
Yeah.
Is to get rid of this stuff.
To de-escalate.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then I hate these Mexican gangsters. Because they're very, like, ticky-tack with their language interpretation of, like, oh, you saw her, you had a face-to-face. Well, she was dead, so she didn't meet me. That's what I want Vince Vaughn to do. He did all that deal-making where he said, take all the money, I don't care. Thinking that the Mexicans would be fine with that.
Right.
But when it came down to it, they're going to be like, you didn't say she had to be alive for this meeting.
They're genies, apparently. They're very
her eyes
particular.
are still in her head,
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we have to assume that she knew something that would have maybe implicated them. There's not a lot of time for them to be brought into the greater mystery, but they had to, they couldn't have just killed her because of that particular thing.
No.
They're trying to get back in.
They said she was dealing with cops.
I know, but that seems like a bullshit excuse to
They
kill
just
her,
want they just want their money. They just want their money, and they want to get into this. They want to get in on it.
You know? Really fast, I want to say one of the things I was saying about being frustrated with the general mystery, and I think perhaps it's the pacing of the show, is that it feels almost like you're supposed to watch the entire season of this show at once. And the reason I say that is, like, they find the lost girl in this episode, but she was, like, mentioned in the first episode, seemingly by coincidence just happened to be involved in this mystery, even though they were at that person's house to find out about her on a totally unrelated thing. And then also, so now we talked to Stan's widow and Stan's son, but Stan died like 4 episodes ago. I didn't have any idea who he was when he died. And now it's significant almost at the full end of the season who he was. It's just weird, like, I don't know what point Stan was supposed to have
Look,
to
I
us.
never watched The Wire, but my understanding of The Wire was that you had to really be paying attention the whole time, and that stuff would get mentioned
but Stan had,
seasons later.
Did Stan even have a scene before he died?
I don't know.
Who
I
was
had to look
Stan?
him up, and I never found him out.
We're
That's
hearing
a valid.
about how great of a guy
and then
he is.
finally, we got to get going. But
The orgy.
the orgy scene.
Okay,
Yes.
so Annie on Molly has a childhood flashback to being molested
In a van.
in a van
Yeah,
by
by
a
the
creepy
river.
guy. And I know people who have suffered childhood sexual trauma, and it does have reverberations in their adult life, and I in no way want to diminish that. However, as a plot device in shows and movies like this, I feel like it's a crutch a little bit. I feel like it's gotten dragged out a lot in recent years. Like it's somehow become a thing that either become more universally accepted in the literature or in the populace that we understand that this stuff happens. It happens more than we think it happens, and that its effects have more of an effect. Its effects mark people in their adulthoods more than we maybe thought it was. But I kind of feel like it's a recurring thing where if you meet a character who has a weird sexual history, who doesn't commit, and who, whatever, eventually we're going to get that moment where they remember being molested as a child. And
I get that. I do like, though. I feel like this is the kind of dark creepiness that I need in this show. So when it plays out in this show, I'm fine with it. I think there have been she's a very compelling character.
Oh, sure.
And the way that her sexual trauma has manifested itself in like interesting character things. All right, guys. The way that her sexual trauma has manifested itself in interesting like character traits. The knives and the way it's completely justifies, I think the workout scene where she's stabbing while her
that's great.
sister's there,
No.
I thought it was a little
Very
weird,
J-Lo
but
enough.
But I like the way I like it. I feel like it's
Well,
compelling,
I mean,
and it's an interesting thing.
Because so much of her character is about rebelling against the general sort of, loosey-goosiness of her childhood of being raised in this sort of like cult and around all these kind of, aging hippie types. So, I mean, it's of a piece. I'm not saying that it's not dramatically valid or that it clashes with what we know about the character. I just kind of feel like this particular revelation gets hauled out with some frequency of late. That it's become a kind of a go-to for writers in the last decade or so.
Yeah.
But it does totally work for this character, and it scans with everything we know about this character and all that stuff. So I mean, I'm not taking that away from it by any means.
And that whole scene, I felt like that was a very compelling scene. The whole sequence of the party going in.
It was very Twin Peaksy.
The way she killed him.
And I liked it. And I thought this is the kind of thing that I need out of this show that has been trying to find a voice that resonates with people.
All right,
and it's there.
2 episodes left. Do we think that Taylor Kitsch is going to deal with his sexuality by the time this thing is over, or is he still going to be a closeted mess by the time?
Closeted mess.
Closeted
Maybe
mess. I don't
dead.
think there's time.
Because the whole time with the actress, I'm thinking, just come out, and then it would be obvious that you did not sexually harass her,
Yeah.
But no, we're not doing that.
Not
yet,
gonna
so
happen.
That's a good idea.
I don't know. 2 episodes. We'll see what happens. Come back and join us.